this peaceful, monk-like, unbothered presence, which your girl is not.
I got a glitch. Oh, it just hit me
Hello
now.
everyone and welcome back. It's Ash, your truth-bombing fairy godmother for everything love, dating, and relationships. Today's video is one that I'm hoping I will benefit from just as much as you guys, which is dealing with anger. And although we're going to be touching on anger towards our exes specifically, this video is definitely applicable towards anger in general, no matter who it's towards. And we're going to be talking about how and why anger isn't some bad, unwholesome emotion, how anger actually serves us, and of course, how we can ensure it serves us in non-destructive ways instead of allowing it to completely take over who we are. But first, if you think you could benefit from new love, dating, relationship, or just more general life advice every single week, then I highly suggest you consider subscribing to my channel by tapping that button below. And as always, if you found this video helpful at all, please consider giving it a thumbs up as well so that other people who could potentially find it helpful have a better chance of seeing it as well. Okay, so today's video is actually going to be based on a video by Tara Brach, who is an absolutely incredible psychologist and meditation teacher and someone that I've mentioned on this channel quite a bit. In fact, this video is going to have a lot of very similar themes to one that I did on forgiveness and letting go a little while back, which was also based on another video by Tara Brach. But as always, I will be linking the full 1-hour Tara Brach video in the description box down below, and I highly suggest you give it a watch. But this video is just going to be a more Cliff Notes version of that one. So let's start out with some myths and misunderstandings about anger. There is definitely this notion that anger is morally bad or unwholesome, or that people who experience anger really intensely are somehow more emotionally immature or less evolved in some way. And I know that there are definitely all kinds of spiritual guides and teachers out there who perhaps do agree with this messaging and feel as though people who are able to control their anger or don't feel anger at all are spiritually or morally superior. And as someone who is a very passionate, intense, angry person at times, that idea has always been a huge turnoff for me and actually prevented me from practicing things like meditation and mindfulness, because I was under this really harmful misunderstanding that practicing those things meant I needed to try and become this peaceful, monk-like, unbothered presence, which your girl is not. But as I did eventually embark on my own healing journey and was introduced to people like Tara Brach and her work, as well as so many others, I learned the truth about anger and what a powerful, transformative, necessary emotion it actually is. And that isn't to say that anger is a place that you want to stay, which I will be getting into shortly, but it absolutely is an essential, important, and valuable part of the human experience. For example, if we think of every big social justice or civil rights movement, at the very crux of those shifts is anger, necessary change, whether at the personal level or at the wider societal level, is often energized by anger and outrage, because anger motivates us to demand better for ourselves or for others, and getting in touch with our anger often wakes us up. It alerts us to the fact that we have not had an essential need met, whether that need is to feel safe or seen or loved or respected, etc. So if you're experiencing anger currently, it is because your psyche or your inbuilt alarm system is alerting you to the fact that either one or several of those essential needs has been violated or neglected in some way. So in essence, anger lets us know that we care about either our own or someone else's well-being. And further, it motivates us and moves us to act in a way that improves that well-being. However, and this is where things get less healthy or productive, Anger can also cause immense amounts of pain and suffering when it takes over. And if you're someone who's been stuck in cycles of prolonged or sustained anger for a while now, I'm sure that you have found this to be true. Being stuck in anger sucks. It's exhausting. Sustained, prolonged anger is no longer a healthy messenger. In fact, it becomes incredibly toxic and addictive, and it ultimately prevents us from achieving what we want. Tara refers to it as the anger button getting jammed. A tap of the button would have been helpful, but it getting stuck becomes incredibly destructive. And the reason it becomes destructive is because it ultimately prevents us from meeting that unmet need that caused us to become angry in the first place. When we become hijacked by anger over a sustained period of time, we end up acting in ways that prevent us from getting what we really want. When our minds are so easily hooked by resentment and blame, we're in this constant state of agitation, which keeps us disconnected and separate from others. And I hear about this exact situation playing out amongst my viewers all the time. For example, let's say you have an ex who betrayed you or was harmful or hurtful towards you in some way. And rightly so, you feel anger towards your ex. However, you find yourself unable to let go of that anger, and you hold on to this idea that every man or every woman is this awful, evil, terrible, untrustworthy human, and that there's no point ever opening up your heart to anyone ever again. And as a result, you treat every man or every woman you encounter with a level of bitterness or disdain. Now, the question is, will that behavior help you meet that underlying need that you have to be chosen and cared about and loved and respected? Because remember, underneath the anger is the need or the desire to have love and care and loyalty and respect, all things your ex obviously didn't give you. And the answer to that question is, of course, no. Our anger actually pushes all of that away. Our anger isolates us, it creates defensiveness in others, and sometimes it even invites and attracts further disrespect. And in Tara's video, she asks you to think about a time when you felt hijacked or stuck in feelings of anger. And maybe it's right now. So if that's the case, really tap into that experience and ask yourself, does my anger give me what I want? Does it work? Do I like myself when I'm in this state? What does it feel like to be me when I am in the grips of anger toward blank? And I further invite you to ask yourself, does my anger teach this person a lesson or prove a point in some way? And chances are that it doesn't, especially if it's someone from your past. Do you think it makes any difference to this person whether or not you walk through your life full of anger, bitterness, and resentment? So now that we understand the way that sustained anger prevents us from meeting our unmet needs, then the question remaining is, well, then how do we use or move through our anger in a way that does allow us to get what we want? And notice how I said move through our anger, because a point that I really want to stress before sharing this method is that suppressing or getting rid of our anger is not the goal. And if we do try to suppress it, it will eventually explode out in a way that is once again not useful. We can learn to experience the energy of anger in a healing, liberating way. And the way that Tara Brach suggests doing this is via a practice or a method called RAIN, which is an acronym that stands for recognize, accept or allow, investigate, and nurture. And it's essentially a process of tapping into your inner world when you're at the midst of anger in order to determine what underlying unmet need is driving that experience of anger or rage in the first place. And I've written down some notes on each step of the method just because I didn't want to misspeak on any of them. So that's why you'll see me glancing down here. Firstly is to recognize. Recognize the moment that you are experiencing anger and sense exactly what is going on for you and what person is triggering those feelings. Recognize exactly what feelings or even what physical sensations are going on for you. So in addition to your anger, you might be feeling frustration or helplessness or aversion or disgust or betrayal. And as a result of those feelings, you might be feeling sensations of heat or tightness, perhaps in your hands, your chest, your jaw, your shoulders, etc. Next, you want to accept and allow those feelings and sensations to be there. Again, this isn't about suppressing or denying your emotional experience for what it is. Allow your anger to be as big and immense as it actually is for you. This isn't about counting to 10 and calming yourself down. That is the last thing that you feel like doing when you're really angry. Tara recommends saying to yourself something like, "This belongs," as a way of actively permitting your difficult emotions to exist. From there, you want to investigate. You want to investigate and become curious about your anger in order to see what's going on underneath. And for most of us, it's often some type of hurt or even immense grief and the need to feel seen, loved, held, etc., and being denied that need by someone. And really feel what it feels like at your core within your heart to be denied that basic primal need, to be robbed of that love or respect that you deserve. And ask yourself, what is it you really want? What is it your anger is trying to achieve for you? And finally, you have to nurture that wound and that unmet need. And this part takes time, and it's often something that you'll have to revisit over and over again. I know when I was in therapy, I did a lot of meditation practices and exercises with my psychologist around this, where I would close my eyes and mentally and emotionally revisit times in my life where I could recall just feeling immense rage towards those who I felt betrayed or wronged by. And I would just sob because underneath that rage was this unmet need to feel seen, loved, respected, and accepted. So now it was up to me to care for and nurture that broken, sad, lonely girl. And I would imagine the most wise, powerful, highest guidance part of myself, my loving adult, if you will, to just embrace me and say everything that I wished someone had said to me during those times in my life when I was experiencing that hurt. And I would just allow messages from my loving adult like, "You are perfectly okay as you are, and you are worthy, and you are enough, and I'm so proud of you, and you've overcome so much," to just wash over me. And in doing so, I finally got to a point where I felt safe enough to release some of that armor that had once served and protected and motivated me, but was now keeping me separate from what I really wanted and craved. But anyway, so in this final stage of rain, the nurturing element is to simply offer yourself what it is you most need and what your anger is often misguidedly trying to achieve for you. And if we can cater to that unmet need that is driving our anger, then we can be empowered and motivated in a healthy, healing way to ask for what we need from others as well. So to set certain boundaries or certain expectations, to raise our standards, etc. And we're doing this in a way that isn't being driven by this blind, directionless anger. As Tara says, it comes from a more whole sense of our being. So if you find yourself stuck in sustained anger towards an ex or anyone else, understand first that anger is not inherently bad. It just needs to be cared for. Anger is an emotion that we very much need, but we also need our wisdom to guide it in a way that is transformational instead of toxic. So if you want to become less defined by your anger towards someone, the key is to recognize it, accept and allow it, investigate it, and nurture it. Okay, my loves, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up there, but I highly recommend watching Tara Brach's full video on this topic. She gives so much more detail and context, and she's just all around so bloody amazing at what she does. Please feel free to share your thoughts with me in the comment section down below. I always love chatting with you guys and hearing what you have to say. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next week.
Tell me what was in that stuff you gave me. I think I like it. In fact, it made me high.